Part 106. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1051. Since this vixen is not afraid of death, then I will let him die. The vixen was frightened by what happened suddenly. He looked at me with fear in his eyes. I looked at him coldly and said, "Now as you wish, you are dead. I ask you again, what do you want that map for? If you still don't tell me, then I have 10,000 ways to make you tell me." Although the vixen was scared, she still spoke harshly. "I won't tell you, just give up on this." The more this vixen behaves like this, the more curious I become about the map. This also proves how important that map is. I was too lazy to talk nonsense with this vixen, so I threw it aside and activated my karma to attack him. The crimson flame instantly enveloped the vixen. "Ah!" The vixen screamed in agony, not to mention how miserable the sound sounded. Of course I won't let this fox spirit fly away. As long as I control the burning degree of the karma fire, I can completely achieve the effect of torture. The vixen howled miserably for 10 minutes. Finally, it couldn't bear it anymore and shouted at me, "I tell you! I tell you!" With a wave of my hand, I removed the karma and came to it. "Say it!" The vixen fell to the ground, breathing heavily. From the outside, the karmic fire did not cause any harm to the vixen's spirit body. But the pain it caused was beyond my imagination. That's a human skin map, which records the location of the dragon gate and how to open it. Hearing this sentence, I was stunned on the spot. I would never have thought that I would encounter such a thing just by going out for a walk. It just so happens that I need to know the specific locations of the other two gantry. I listened, then nodded, and said, "I understand." The vixen prayed, "I told you everything I know, can you let me go now?" I raised a sneer at the corner of my mouth, "Let it go? It's obviously impossible." This vixen charmed Sci-11. If I hadn't arrived in time, Sci-11 might have met with something unexpected. Moreover, how could I let others know such important information as Longmen? Dragon Gate is not only very attractive to immortals, but also important to other spirits. As long as they can jump over the Dragon Gate, their Taoism can reach a higher level. It is impossible for me to let the tiger return to the mountain and let some spirits hinder my actions. I then waved, and another ball of karma fire hit the vixen. This time the fire of karma is stronger than before. I didn't hold back at all, and in just a few breaths I completely eliminated the vixen. I withdrew the Nine Eyes Heaven realm, came to the luxury car, opened the door, and sat in. When Sci-11 saw me coming back, she quickly looked me up and down and breathed a long sigh of relief when she saw that I was not injured. Seeing how worried she looked, I couldn't help but smile knowingly, and said, "The matter has been resolved, but there is a new matter before me." "What's the matter?" I told Sci-11 the reason why the vixen pestered her. After hearing this, Sci-11 said with some confusion, "Human skin map." I nodded and said, "Yes, you should have that human skin map at home, otherwise the vixen won't be able to haunt you." But what Sci-11 said next made me frown. I don't have a human skin map at home." Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1052. I was stunned, thought for a moment and said, "This shouldn't be the case. If you really don't have one at home, that vixen won't be able to find you. Think carefully, has your grandfather ever told you anything before? Or maybe, there's a place where he never lets you in. With my relationship with Sci-11, it is impossible for her to deceive me. I say this because Sci-11's grandfather is also a skin painter. Sci-11 told me before that her grandfather taught her skin painting skills in dreams." Sci-11 fell into silence. After a while, she raised her head and said, "It seems like there really is such a place." My eyes lit up and I asked, "Where?" Sci-11 started the car and said to me, "I'll take you there now." With that said, Sci-11 drove out of the city and headed for the suburbs. Soon, we came to an old house. This is my Sci family's old house. I grew up here. There is a room in the old house that my grandfather never allowed me to get close to. I nodded and said, let's go in and take a look. Sci-11 took out the key and opened the door of the old house, and then Sci-11 and I walked in. The yard is very tidy and seems to be cleaned regularly. However, I smelled a disgusting smell of urine. I called Sci-11, etc. Sci-11 looked at me doubtfully and asked, what's wrong? I stretched out my hand and pulled Sci-11 behind me. Sci-11 blushed slightly because of my move. I looked around warily. Suddenly, I saw a pair of scarlet eyes in the corner. I frowned and directly used Nine Eyes' heavenly domain, taking Sci-11 and disappearing in an instant. When I reappeared, I already had a yellow leather bag in my hand. Sci-11 looked at the yellow leather in my hand with some surprise and asked, why is this weasel here? I replied, looks like we're in the right place. This Huangpaizi obviously has some spiritual skills, but he has not reached the stage of becoming a spirit. It should stay here to monitor every move of the entire old house. The smell of urine that I smelled when I just walked in must have come from this guy. It seems that not only vixens are eyeing the human skin map, but also yellow-skinned ones are here. The piece of yellow leather in my hand was trembling, and the eyes looking at me were full of fear. I originally wanted to kill this guy, but then I thought about it. It's not easy for this little guy to practice cultivation. Anyway, there are so many lice that it doesn't bother him. There is a yellow-skinned person watching here, which means there must be a spirit in the dark that I haven't noticed. If I take the human skin map away, they will definitely find it. As the saying goes, if you have too many lice, you won't be itchy. I said to the yellow leather in my hand, I will let you go today, but you must practice well in the future and never harm anyone's life. Huang Pitzi was very spiritual and nodded at me repeatedly. I placed Huang Pitzi on the ground. It didn't leave in a hurry, but stood up, put its two little paws on its chest, and bowed to me 3 times. I was slightly taken aback. This little guy was quite polite. After praying, Huang Pitzi disappeared into the darkness. Later, Sci-11 and I came to that room. She opened the door with her hands, and a cold air poured out from inside, making Sci-11 shiver. I hesitated and put my coat on Sci-11. This was originally Sci-11's clothes, and this would return them to their original owners. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1053. Thanks. Sci-11 said softly. She took out her phone and turned on the flashlight. Dim yellow light illuminates the room. The house was very tidy, with no furniture at all. Sci-11 scratched her head and said, I haven't been in this room since my grandfather passed away, but why isn't there even a single piece of furniture? I said to Sci-11, let's search carefully. Maybe what we are looking for is somewhere. Sci-11 nodded. I looked around, and the room was really empty, with nothing superfluous. If it were a human skin map, it would definitely have yin energy. My body consciousness is much stronger than the average person. People with strong body consciousness are also highly sensitive to yin energy. I closed my eyes and carefully felt the flow of yin qi around me. After a while, I discovered the clue. I looked towards a corner of the room. I stepped forward and looked carefully at the floor and walls. A floor tile attracted my attention. I squatted down, stretched out my hand and pressed it hard. The next moment, the creaking sound of a machine starting up resounded in my ears. I stood up and looked around, only to see a small pit sinking in the middle of the room. I came to the small pit and took out the contents. When I picked up the item, I was overjoyed that I had found it. The human skin map is indeed here. I opened the human skin map and was stunned when I saw the content on it. Because there is nothing on it. I scratched my head, shouldn't this be right? Sia 11 saw my surprised expression and quickly leaned forward to check. Ah! She screamed. I asked, what's wrong? Sia 11 pointed to the human skin map and said, this is Pai Yin. Pai Yin? What is that? Sia 11 explained, skin painting is a very special way for leather painters to hide information. We will use special methods to leave the things we want to record on human skin. Only us painters can untie it. It dawned on me that this was a bit like Morse code during the war. Only those who know the Morse code can decipher it. We didn't stay here too long and drove back to the city. On the way, Sia 11 asked me, Lu Su, is this skin important to you? I nodded and answered truthfully, it's important. Sia 11 thought for a while and said, let's do this. You put Pai Yin in my hand first, and I will help you decipher the information recorded on it, and then I will give it to you. I was stunned, looked at her, and asked, how long will it take? Sia 11 smiled sweetly at me and said, soon, I will be relieved at noon tomorrow. Then I'm sorry to trouble you. It's okay. The relationship between the two of us does not require thanks. I hesitated again and said, you can join Ji Yuntang with me. Sia 11 asked doubtfully, why? I expressed my worries. Those spirits were eyeing Pai Yin, but Sia 11 was an ordinary person, and it would be very dangerous if she was targeted by those spirits. Sia 11 nodded after hearing this and said, okay. The two of us soon returned to Ji Yuntang. A dim light shines through the door of Ji Yuntang. What time is it? Is anyone still awake? I opened the door and saw Su Tianxian sitting quietly on the Eight Immortals chair. I instantly understood what was going on. She had been waiting for me to come back. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1054. Tianxian, aren't you asleep yet? Su Tianxian glanced at me lightly and said, waiting for you. My heart warmed. Sia 11 greeted Su Tianxian respectfully. Master Tianxian, long time no see. Su Tianxian nodded and said, yes. Long time no see. I told Su Tianxian about the human skin map, and she was stunned after hearing it. Then she stood up and led Sia 11 to the second floor. I knew that she was looking for a room for Sia 11. After a while, Su Tianxian walked down from the second floor. He was holding something in his hand. She put the things on the table, and I took a closer look. It was the bag of snacks I bought for her. I looked at her and said, next time this happens again, you don't have to wait for me to come back. Su Tianxian shook his head slightly and replied, no, no matter how late or how long it takes, I will wait for you to come back. She spoke in a calm tone, but it made my heart warm. The most Su Tianxian said to me was to wait for me to come back. And she did. She opened the snack bag on the table and said to me, eat with me. I was stunned, glanced at the time, and said, it's so late, eating snacks is not good for your health. Su Tianxian's hand movements stopped for a moment, then she looked at me quietly and asked, are you afraid that I will gain weight? The corner of my mouth twitched slightly. Why has Su Tianxian's brain circuit been so strange in recent times? How could it be? I like you no matter what you look like. Su Tianxian's pretty face turned red and she said nothing. I continued, if you want to eat, then I will accompany you. Su Tianxian nodded slightly, but then seemed to think of something. I want to eat while looking at the stars. Good. Later, Su Tianxian and I came to the rooftop and sat on the chairs on the rooftop looking at the stars in the sky. This reminded me of the previous scene in the starry sky, where Su Tianxian accompanied me like this. She opened the snacks and started eating and drinking without stopping. Seeing her like this, I couldn't help but smile. Su Tianxian saw me smiling and asked hesitantly, "Why are you laughing?" "Nothing." Su Tianxian asked again, "Why don't you eat?" "I'll just watch you eat." Su Tianxian shook his head, took a potato chip and handed it to my mouth. I was slightly startled and bit down gently. I have never felt that my heart could be so peaceful, with the starry sky as the background and Su Tianxian sitting next to me. I think I will never forget the scene in my life. Su Tianxian suddenly said, "If I leave you, you must take care of yourself, don't let yourself get hurt, and don't do things recklessly." I nodded and said, "I understand." Su Tianxian turned on the thought mode. "If there is something that cannot be solved, you should contact Yu Sun Tao. If it cannot be solved, you can come to me." I immediately shook my head and said, "I won't go to you. That inheritance is very important to you. I don't want you to." Su Tianxian said nothing, then looked up at the stars in the sky and said, "Xiao Su, have you ever thought that you will leave me one day?" "Should I leave Su Tianxian?" "No, I have never wanted to leave you. As long as you are willing, I will always be by your side." Su Tianxian turned his head, looked at me, and said, "When you know everything, maybe you will choose to leave me in order to fulfill your purpose." Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1055. Hearing this, I smiled and said, "Tianxian, don't worry, no matter what happens, I will hold you firmly in my hands." Su Tianxian raised his head, smiled brightly at me, and said, "I believe you." Afterwards, the two of us ate snacks while admiring the stars in the sky. I don't know how long it took before the two of us returned to our respective bedrooms. When she woke up the next morning, Xia 11 broke out the hidden skin. Looking at her haggard look, I knew she hadn't slept all night. This is really difficult for her. I have deciphered the contents on the skin. "Lu Su, take a look." I took Pai Yin from Xia 11's hand, took a closer look, and instantly knew where the 3 dragon gates existed. The first place is Kunlun Mountain. The second place is Qinling Mountains. The third place is the Yellow River. These 3 places are where the dragon veins are located. It also records the method of opening the dragon gate. Lu Hangxuan also came over. When she saw the content on the skin, she was stunned for a moment, and then said with some surprise, "It actually records the locations of 3 dragon gates. In this case, we don't have to worry about finding them." I nodded. I thanked Xia 11 again and again. Xia 11 yawned, her eyes widened, as if she was about to fall asleep. "You're welcome, you're welcome." I quickly asked Xia 11 to rest. Later, I discussed with Su Tianxian about going to Kunlun Mountain. Su Tianxian felt that this matter could not be delayed any longer and he had to go as soon as possible. I nodded in agreement, and then called Wang Cheng. The reason why I called him is because this guy is a rich second generation, and his family is rich and powerful. It should be easy for him to get an ID card for Lu Hangxuan. After hearing this, Wang Cheng said, "The fastest time to apply for an ID card is 2 weeks. I think you are in a hurry. Let's do this. I will book a flight for you. As for your friend, you don't need an ID card." I thanked him profusely. "What kind of thing is this?" "Don't worry, I will definitely handle it for you." The phone hung up and I found Huaxiu. "Brother is going out for a trip, so you have to be careful." Huaxiu asked me with some confusion. "Am I careful? Be careful about what?" I replied, "The general is eyeing you. I'm afraid he will come to visit you during my absence." Huaxiu was stunned for a moment, and her expression became a little serious. It was obvious that she was also very afraid of the general. "Okay, I get it." I hesitated for a moment and then said, "There is one more thing, that is, you should pay attention to Xia 11 recently. I am afraid that something will happen to her. Xia 11 cracked Pai Yin, and she also knew the location of Longmen. If other people looking for Longmen knew about it, they would definitely attack her. The reason why I entrusted this matter to Huaxiu is because after Su Tianxian left, she was the most powerful in the entire Ji Yuntang. Okay, I understand. Brother Huang, you should also pay attention to your safety. If anything happens, you must find a way to contact me. With that said, I took out my phone from my pocket and entered her phone number. Here, this is my mobile phone number. I couldn't help shaking my head and smiling bitterly, reaching out my hand and gently caressing Huaxiu's head. You. Huaxiu made a face at me. Wang Cheng booked the flight tickets at noon, and they were all first class. I said goodbye to Miao Fengluan and others, and embarked on the journey to Kunlun Mountain with Su Tianxian and Lu Hangxuan. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 1056. Kunlun Mountain occupies a very important position in mythology. Many myths originate from the Kunlun Mountains. Kunlun Mountain is the dojo of the Queen Mother of the West. It is said that Kunlun Mountain was the birthplace of the Kunlun sect of Taoism in ancient times. The immortal Queen Mother of the West, with the head of a human and the body of a leopard, is served by two blue birds. She is the main deity of Taoism and has a very high status in Taoism. She and the Duke of the East are responsible for the cultivation of men and women to become immortals. I also asked Su Tianxian where in the Kunlun Mountains she was going. Su Tianxian just said that he was in Kunlun Mountain. Before leaving, she thoughtfully prepared some clothes for me to avoid the cold. This behavior makes me feel like she is my wife, taking good care of me. Soon, we came to a city near Kunlun Mountain. The average altitude here has exceeded 3,000 meters. As for me, I got altitude sickness, but Su Tianxian and Lu Hangxuan were fine. We found a hotel to stay at. Su Tianxian came to my room and took good care of me. She said to me, "You can try to bring up the purple energy in your body. Maybe you will feel better." I nodded, moved the Zai Wei Qi in my body, and found that I felt much better. Su Tianxian said to me, "Tomorrow, we will enter Kunlun Mountain and help Lu Hangxuan find Longmen first, and then I will leave. With Paiyan's guidance, it should be easy to find the Dragon Gate. If there were no Paiyan, it would probably take us a lot of time and experience. After all, the entire Kunlun Mountains are so big." By evening, I had almost resumed my hair. I approached Su Tianxian and suggested that we go out for a walk, because we had agreed before that we would travel around the world together. While you still have some time, go shopping first. Su Tianxian happily agreed. I turned to look at Lu Hangxuan. I was about to open my mouth to ask, but I saw her smiling softly at me. "You and Master Tianxian go, I won't go." I nodded. Naturally, knowing what Lu Hangxuan was thinking, I couldn't help but give her a thumbs up secretly. Our city is not backward, on the contrary, it is very prosperous. Su Tianxian and I were walking on the street, and I asked, "Do you want something to eat?" Su Tianxian nodded, and then I asked the locals where there were night market food stalls. Not that I blame it, because I feel that places like night markets are the most down-to-earth. Moreover, Su Tianxian does not dislike these at all. Soon, we arrived at the busiest night market in the city. Smelling the aroma of delicious food in the air whetted my appetite. After eating some snacks, Su Tianxian and I went to a roasted whole lamb restaurant. There was a huge crowd at this restaurant and business was booming. Moreover, there was a drool-worthy smell of barbecue in the air. Su Tianxian and I waited outside for a while, and then it was our turn. Afterwards, the two of us walked into the restaurant and found a private room. After Su Tianxian entered the restaurant, his beautiful eyebrows were furrowed. When I saw this, I asked, "What's wrong?" She shook her head slightly and said, "Nothing." In addition to roasted whole lamb, this restaurant's signature dishes include lamb heart and beef heart. I also ordered a few points. The waiter took the menu and left. However, the moment the waiter left, I suddenly felt a faint smell of death coming from the waiter's body. I looked at Su Tianxian and asked in a low voice, "Tianxian, have you smelled?" Before I finished speaking, I saw her nodding. "Well, this restaurant smells like death." Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1057. At this moment, I finally knew the reason for Su Tianxuan's frown. I came to the window and planned to open it to get some air. But as soon as the window was opened, I saw a strange figure. The man was wearing a black robe and a hat on his head, making it difficult to see his appearance. However, his figure gave me a very familiar feeling. It's Zhao Mian. I was shocked. How could he come here? I waved to Su Tianxian quickly, and Su Tianxian stood up and came to my side, looking out the window. When she saw Zhao Mian, she was also stunned. Zhao Mian stood motionless on the street. At this moment, a man dressed as a chef ran out of the restaurant. The chef came to Zhao Mian and didn't know what he was talking about. At this moment, Zhao Mian suddenly raised his head, and I quickly pulled Su Tianxian aside. Because the direction he was looking at was exactly the box where we were. After a while, I secretly stuck my head out of the window. Zhao Mian had already disappeared without a trace. Su Tianxian and I returned to the dining table without saying a word. Why did Zhao Mian come here? Did he discover our existence with his move just now? At first, I thought it was better to leave this restaurant than to do more. But now it seems that it is no longer necessary. Su Tianxian suddenly spoke to me and said, "That chef is a bit weird." I was stunned and asked, "What's wrong?" All my attention just now was on Zhao Mian, and I didn't pay any attention to the chef. Su Tianxian pondered for a moment and then said, "If I guess correctly, that chef should be a shady chef." Yin Kitchen. The Yin chef is a profession that specializes in cooking for ghosts. They will use special methods to cook delicious food, and those ghosts who refuse to leave will choose to leave after eating the delicious food cooked by the Yin Kitchen. However, there are bad apples in every walk of life. Some ghost chefs will use living people as ingredients and cook them into dishes, and their souls will parasitize in the dishes, which can be said to be very vicious. Or the spirit of the fierce ghost is sealed in the dish. In this case, the dish will bring special effects. This is somewhat similar to Miao Jiang's Gu technique. Moreover, it is said that the Yin kitchen industry has become extinct. I never expected that I would encounter it here. I looked at Su Tianxian and said, "It seems like we need to check this store." Zhao Mian is a very purposeful person. Now that he has found the Yin kitchen, it means that he must have some connection with this Yin kitchen. Moreover, there is a good chance that the two people are already working together. Zhang Yaqing's soul is still in Zhao Mian's hands. I will take this opportunity to snatch it away and return it to my destiny palace. Su Tianxian lowered his head and pondered. After a moment, he raised his head and said, "I think I already know the purpose of Zhao Mian coming here." "What purpose?" Su Tianxian said slowly, "He wants to piece together a new body for Zhang Yaqing." Hearing this sentence, a chill rose in my heart. Piece together a new body. Zhang Yaqing's true body is Zhujian. A normal human body cannot bear Zhang Yaqing's soul. If you want Zhang Yaqing to resurrect his body, you must find the body of a special person, but this kind of body is difficult to find. I suddenly understood and continued, then Zhao Mian found Yin Chu, hoping to find broken limbs from him and piece together a special body. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1058. That's right. Su Tianxian continued, you must eradicate this Jade leader, not only because he is the 9 evil stars, but also because he is the Tianfu city god. Only by completely eradicating Zhangya Chain can you become the true master of Tianfu city god. The 4 major city gods have hundreds of thousands of underworld soldiers. There are also many powerful Yin generals. And I am the heir to Tianfu city god. Only when Zhangya Chain dies can I legitimately inherit Tianfu city god. Those hundreds of thousands of Yin soldiers will also surrender to me. These hundreds of thousands of Yin soldiers will be of great use to you in the future. I nodded and did not deny Su Tianxuan's words. Because the current undercurrent in the underworld is surging, and with just one trigger, the major forces in the underworld will rise up, compete for territory again, expand their power, and even re-establish the order of the underworld. And you are the only one who can solve this matter. Of course, you can't ignore the threat Shenxia poses to you. Emperor Fengdu once conveyed to me metaphorically that I could save the underworld. Now there are more than 20,000 Yin soldiers in my Sea of Ghosts. Moreover, the Ghost Master and Mangshan Ghost King are also on my side. If I can completely control the Tianfu city god, when there is a riot in the underworld, I will be able to quell it. Although I don't know what benefit quelling the underworld riots would do to me. However, it is impossible for me not to listen to Su Tianxuan's words. While the two of us were talking, there was a knock on the box door. Please come in. I saw the waiter just walked in carrying the dishes I ordered. He placed the dishes neatly on the dining table, and then said to Su Tianxian and me, "You two enjoy it slowly." Then, the waiter withdrew. The dishes on the table are so appetizing that just looking at them can make people drool. But I soon realized something was wrong. On those 2 plates of beef heart and sheep heart, I felt the strong Yin energy. I picked up a piece of beef heart with my chopsticks and looked at it carefully. This is not the heart of a cow. It's clearly the human heart. I'm looking at the other dishes. Although I ordered a roasted whole lamb, the lamb was cut into small pieces and served, so I couldn't tell which part of the lamb it was. I looked at it for a while, then raised my head and said to Su Tianxian seriously, "Tianxian, the meat on this table is all human flesh." Su Tianxian nodded and said, "That's right, and it's for 2 people." I took a breath. This restaurant is so cruel, even using human flesh to cook. Su Tianxian stood up, slowly stretched out his hand, and pinched the magic formula. She stretched out her sapphire finger and pointed at the sheep's heart, then gave a sweet shout. A white mist emerged from the sheep's heart. Immediately afterwards, a dark wind blew in the room, and the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped a few points. White mist gathered in the air, and in a moment, a woman appeared in front of me. The moment the female ghost appeared, she rushed towards Su Tianxian with her teeth and claws open. Su Tianxian just waved his hand, and the female ghost was restrained in place by a beam of golden light. Immediately afterwards, Su Tianxian followed the same method and drew out the evil spirit in Niu's heart. Then bound in place. I looked at the male ghost and female ghost in front of me and frowned. This is what Yin Chu does. Su Tianxian said calmly on the side. I looked at the 2 ghosts and asked, "Tell me, what happened to you?" You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1059. The 2 fierce ghosts were wearing modern clothes. Probably a couple. Even though they are now bound by golden light, the vicious and sinister look in their eyes has not diminished. The male ghost bared his teeth at me, as if he wanted to swallow me. Seeing this situation, Su Tianxian said, "It's useless, they are under control." As she said that, she came to the female ghost, kneaded the secrets with both hands, then stretched out her index finger and gently touched the female ghost's eyebrows. The next moment, a beam of golden light burst out from Su Tianxuan's index finger and went straight into the female ghost's eyebrows. The female ghost's expression instantly became dull. Later, Su Tianxian came to the male ghost again and used the same method to restore the male ghost to normal. The two ghosts looked dazed for a while, and then gradually regained their consciousness. The male ghost looked around in confusion and asked, "Where is this?" I replied, "You are already dead." As soon as these words came out, the male ghost was stunned for a moment, then showed a look of pain on his face, wailing for a moment, as if he knew something, and then lowered his eyes, his face full of sadness. Su Tianxian waved his hand and removed the golden light restraint from the male ghost. The male ghost, who was free of restraints, had no intention of leaving. The same goes for female ghosts. I asked, "What on earth have you experienced?" The male ghost raised his head and slowly told us what they had experienced. As expected, they were a couple traveling here. I heard from locals that this restaurant is very famous, so I came here. When I first came here, nothing strange happened. But after the food was served, they were stunned by the aroma of the food. When I woke up again, I was in a basement. The basement was extremely dark, but they could clearly see blood stains on the walls and human remains everywhere. This frightened the two people and they struggled desperately, but to no avail. Finally, a man dressed as a chef entered the basement, cut the two people into pieces, and sealed their souls in their hearts. After listening to the two people's accounts, I was extremely horrified. Unexpectedly, this evil chef could be so cruel. He cut two people into pieces alive and imprisoned their souls after death. I asked again, "Then you two still remember the purpose of coming here?" The male ghost nodded and said, "Remember, that Yin chef asked us to knock you two out and then take you away." Su Tianxian and I looked at each other. I pondered for a moment and said, "I can help you two reincarnate, but you two have to help me act in a play." The male ghost nodded repeatedly, indicating that he was willing to listen to my instructions. They have suffered too much inhuman torture in this place. Even if you are dead, your soul will still be tortured by the Yin kitchen from time to time. To them, this restaurant is hell. I called Su Tianxian aside and told me my plan. Su Tianxian nodded after hearing this and said, "Your method is feasible, but you have to be careful. If it is just a shady chef, we can deal with it without any effort, but with Zhao Mian here, we have to be careful. My plan is to pretend to be lucky and see what the evil chef is going to do." If I guessed correctly, Zhao Mian didn't know that Su Tianxian and I were here. The reason why that shady chef attacked me and Su Tianxian was probably because he was interested in some kind of organ of me and Su Tianxian. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1060. Zhao Mian was looking for Yin Chu because he wanted Yin Chu to piece together a body for Zhang Yucheng. Since we are piecing together the body, we need to find suitable organs and limbs. While Su Tianxian and I were discussing, there was a knock on the door. Su Tianxian and I looked at each other, quickly returned to our seats, and then pretended to be unconscious and lay on the table. The knocking on the door continued for a while, but when no one responded, the door was pushed open with a creak. A gust of dark wind roared. Then, I heard a dull sound of footsteps. Then a feeling of being watched washed over me. Someone is standing next to me and staring at me. About 5 minutes passed. I felt myself being helped up and walked towards the door. There were people coming and going in the whole restaurant, and they caressed me out so generously without fear of being discovered by others. After all, in a restaurant, it is normal for someone to drink too much. Also, this restaurant is not halal, so you can drink alcohol or anything else. I opened my eyes a slit, and at this moment, the person next to me was supporting me towards the back of the restaurant. After walking out of the restaurant, I came to a house. The door opened, and then I heard the creaking sound of a machine. A deep downward passage appeared in front of me. Then, the person next to me helped me walk down the passage. Rather than holding me, it's better to say that he was dragging me. Soon I came to a dark room, and the strong smell of blood filled my nose. It seems that we have arrived at the basement mentioned by the male ghost. I was tied to a bed and the person who helped me in also left. I opened my eyes and saw a blood-stained ceiling. I glanced at the rope on my body, grabbed it with my right hand, and Jingxiao was held in my hand. I cut off the ropes that tied me, and then quickly came to Su Tianxuan's side. Cut off the rope on her body. The two fierce ghosts were standing at the door, apparently they were ordered to guard Su Tianxian and me. I waved at the two ghosts. Two ghosts came to me, and I said, I will send you away from here now, to the underworld for reincarnation. When the two ghosts heard this, they looked happy, but their happy expressions only lasted for a while, and then dimmed. I asked, what's wrong? The male ghost grabbed the female ghost's hand and said, I don't want to forget her. Reincarnation means a new life, and the past will disappear without a trace. This put me in immediate trouble. These two ghosts helped me. Logically speaking, I should satisfy their request. However, before reincarnation, he would drink mengpo soup. The female ghost also looked gloomy. I looked at Su Tianxian and wanted to ask her opinion. Su Tianxian sighed helplessly, came to the side of the two ghosts, pulled a strand of hair from the female ghost's head, then placed it in the palm of his hand and kneaded it with one hand to cast a spell. Then, Su Tianxian tied the female ghost's hair around the male ghost's wrist. A surprising scene happened. The female ghost's hair actually disappeared into the male ghost's wrist, and finally turned into a mole. Su Tianxian said, if you are reincarnated with your memories of your lifetime, it will destroy the order of the underworld. This strand of hair will guide you to find each other in the afterlife. When the time comes, whether you can grasp each other depends on your luck.